those of you, maybe you'll go in to Dallas, maybe virtually. But whenever I do a training, I always like to set very, very clear intentions. And so I want you each to take a second, right? There's probably 100 other things you could be doing right now, but here you are. What is your intention that you want to walk away with tonight? Because you can get on a training, you can hear lots of great motivating things, but if you don't really know what you're looking for, you don't really know maybe what is in your way or really what you want to hear and open your heart to listen to tonight, it gets hard because you can leave a training, we've all done it, been like, that was amazing, I'm so motivated, and then you wake up tomorrow and you don't think about it again. And so I want you to just get really still for a second. I want you to open your heart, I want you to open your mind, and really think about what you want to walk away with tonight. And then I'm going to share my intention, right? I have successful businesses now. A lot of you know me well or have heard me speak. And I always share that I am someone who my first year of business, I failed in every way possible. I made no money. I was thousands of dollars in debt. And in only a couple of years, I turned that around to grow my business to $1 million. And the key to all of that was my own fear, my own anxiety, I was getting in my own way. And so I always love to do a training at the beginning of Mary Kay year with women because it's such an exciting time, right? We think, let's wipe the slate clean, let's look forward, let's get excited, set some new goals. And then what happens? Life happens. That excitement dwindles, stressors get in the way. There's a lot of things, you're pulled in a lot of directions as a woman. And then where you were excited at the beginning of the year, you're all of a sudden not taking the action you wanted. You're not feeling as confident as you were. Maybe you're dodging Sarah's text messages, right? Like we all get in our own way. And so what I want you to walk away with tonight, my intention for you is I'm going to give you 3 keys to really setting yourself up for success, but sustainable success. People get excited and they look at big dreams and big goals. And I love that. Like I have huge goals and I love doing that with people and I love training on that. But I want to give you actual tangible things to really overcome fear and anxiety because we all have it, right? At this far in my business, there are still days where I wake up and I feel overwhelmed or I feel fearful or I question myself. That's normal. That's a part of the process. But what is not is having the skills to break through that. And so the things I'm going to teach you tonight, the resources I'm going to share, I'll make sure Sarah gives that to you all. But I want you to have the roadmap to have consistent growth, to take consistent action right now. Not waiting to get confident, not waiting to feel ready, having the tools, actionable tools to implement. I want you to have an emotional breakthrough. I want you to get off this call feeling like I have the roadmap to what I need to do to make a change. Okay. And so we're going to just jump right in. And if you have questions, I can see the chat. If you want to direct message me, I have people who are like, I want to ask my question, but not in front of anyone. Just private message me on here. I can ask it because it's going to be helpful to everyone. Okay. And so I really want to step into key 1, which is building an objective and balanced mindset. Okay. Building an objective and balanced mindset. How many of you, when it comes to setting new goals or the new year, you kind of set this intention or this mindset of like, okay, it's new. Let me just look at the now and the future. And you never look backwards, right? Most people, because as women, we're such in the space of self-judgment and self-criticism, or we really only look back at our mistakes or our failures. And so a lot of times when we feel fearful in our businesses, what we say is, okay, when the month begins, then I'll start. When the new year begins, then I'll go for directorship, right? What's the point? Like we get in this spot of discouragement because we're always looking for the next blank slate. We're always looking for the next fresh start because we're so hard on ourselves. And so before we get into some other keys about setting goals and taking action and all of that, what I really want you to do, right? The opposite of anxiety is to have self-compassion. The opposite of anxiety is self-appreciation. So when I'm working with female entrepreneurs and we're setting goals and we're doing the work, a majority of their mindset is around all the things they're doing wrong, all the things that they're not good enough at. They compare themselves to other women. They compare themselves to, the woman who does it so easy. And it's like this constant judgment because our brains are wired to keep us safe, not happy. I want you to hear what I'm saying. Our brains are wired to keep us safe, not happy. And how our brains keep us safe is it has us looking for, how are we not good enough? What should we be doing more of? What should we be scared of? Where are we inadequate? Where are we insecure? Where is someone better than me? What do I need to do more of? It's always do more, do more, do more. Our brains are wired to look for all that's wrong and all that's destructive and all of the criticism. And so the skill I'm going to teach you right now is, how do I rewire my brain for calm? How do I rewire my brain, change the narrative for self-appreciation, so that no matter what season of life I'm in, I can consistently work my business. I can stay in it, because a lot of times life happens. Do you know, in that first year of business where I failed miserably, I made up every excuse not to work my business. Oh, my friend really needs me. Oh, my parents really want me to do X, Y, and Z. It was so easy to put everyone else first because I didn't appreciate myself. I didn't respect my business. I was scared. I was so much in fear that I didn't even know how to look within myself of the gifts and strengths that I had. And so what I want you to do before we set goals is, I want each of you, after this training tonight, I don't care what you got going on tonight, you can take 25, 30 minutes. And these are the questions I want you to ask yourself. You have got to do this reflection if you are going to walk into this new year and take action in your business. I want you to answer, what are you celebrating from the last Mary Kay year? What are you celebrating? And a lot of times when I start doing this with women, when we work together, they're like, well, I didn't really do that. Your brain's going to keep you safe. Look at all the things you didn't do. Look at all the things you could have done better. No, I'm not asking that. I'm asking, what are you celebrating? What went well in your Mary Kay business? Because you have to train your brain to look for those things. It doesn't just happen. People have this myth. Well, when I feel confident enough, I'll do the work. Confidence doesn't come from just thinking. Confidence comes from training your brain to look for the beautiful gifts within yourself. Right? Thank you, Sarah. That'll be great if you can write it. Question 2. What is the growth you've seen within yourself that you are proud of? Right? So I want you to list the things that you are proud of yourself for. What is the growth you've had? And you can be financial, it could be within your business, but I want you to look within you. Is it that you used to be scared to come on a Zoom like this, and here you are? Right? A lot of times people only look at big wins. They only look at, well, when I achieve this, when I make this much money, then I can be proud, then I can praise myself. It never happened. I have women I coach that make $1 million, and it was never enough. So if you cannot identify what you're celebrating, what you're proud of, you're still going to be wired to look at how you're not worthy enough. And so I want you to take time to appreciate and highlight what you're proud of. Because again, self-praise, self-appreciation is the opposite of anxiety in your brain. So you are literally rewiring your brain for growth and positivity and calm. Okay. What do you feel? Third question, what do you feel are your biggest strengths? Right? When we're in that comparison trap, we're always looking at other leaders. We're always looking at other women that, are where we want to be, or doing the work that we're struggling to do. And all we see is our challenges. All we see is where we feel like we're unworthy or where we're lacking. When I ask women, when I do consultation calls, one of the questions is, what are your biggest strengths? And 99% of the time, it is silence on the other line. They'll say, I'm nice, I'm helpful, I'm kind. Those are pretty easy. But they are not able to identify the gifts and strengths within themselves because they don't see it as a big deal. So when I start to work with women and I identify those things for them, they're like, oh, isn't everybody like that? They minimize it. It's so normal to do that. And so I want you to think about, when I'm asking you these questions and you're going to take time later to write them, pay attention to what your automatic thought and feeling is. Because if you are minimizing these questions and the answers to them, you are minimizing yourself and you are putting yourself down. And that will be your biggest barrier to taking action in your business. Because anytime something doesn't go perfectly the way you want it to, which most things in business don't, right? We're all out there working, trying to make changes. You will feel so discouraged. You will shut down and walk away from your dream. Okay. Now, the best thing about what I love teaching people and what I want you to walk away, why I say the key is an objective mindset. Because again, most people think thoughts, feelings, mindset is positive or negative, good or bad. So when people feel discouraged, they have this idea, I just need to be more positive. I just need to think more positively. And the goal is not always just positive thinking, it's objective thinking. right? The first couple of questions I asked you were really focused around celebration and around, self-praise. But the next question that is so important is what were your biggest challenges? Because in business, it's about growth, and it's about being able to look at the things you struggle with through the lens of objectivity and compassion, right? We're so easy to look at the things we struggle with and the high expectations and the mistakes and put ourselves down. But you want to be able to look at the things that are challenging for you in a way of there's no judgment in that. So when you ask yourself, what were my biggest challenges last year in my Mary Kay business? It's not what's wrong with me, I'm not good enough. It's like, no, what was hard? I hate when people say, these are my weaknesses. There are no weaknesses. We're all different people. We're born with different personalities. There are challenges I have in my business that other entrepreneurs don't even think twice about. And they will always be a challenge because it's something I'd rather delegate, or it's something that doesn't fill me up, and that's okay. So with this question, I want you to get really confident in looking at your challenges through loving yourself and giving yourself compassion. Now, here's what's wrong with me. No, what are your challenges? Because every entrepreneur has them. And so when you can know your challenges and where things are maybe a little harder for you or don't come as easy, that's such a gift. Own that. Be your authentic self and recognize what's harder for you. So you can either get coaching from Sarah, you can get support from sister consultants, you can go on a training, right? Knowledge is power, but we have to be objective, because when we fall in the positive and negative, that triggers anxiety in our brains. Nothing's good or bad. Just look at it objectively, okay? So the next question, what do you want to improve this Mary Kay year? Right? So if we're looking at our strengths, our celebrations, we're looking at our challenges, then we have to look at, well, what do I want to improve on this year? Right? Because again, most people set goals out of lack, out of not feeling worthy, out of feeling like they're not good enough. So they set these crazy big goals and they don't want to look at any of it. But this is where the power is, to figure out where you're going and to know yourself so objectively that you don't get in your own way anymore. And so what do you want to improve on? Not what you have to do better at, now how you need to be more worthy. No, what do you want to improve on? Those could be skills. They could be things within you like confidence, self-worth. Like, just get really honest. Again, very objectively. And my last question, because again, we can answer all these, but if we don't really put into this last question, it will be hard to make change. And so what changes need to happen in order for you to make those improvements? Right? What changes need to happen in order for you to make those improvements? Because without this last question, then you're not even sure of what in your life needs to be different, right? And we'll get into a couple of these things in a minute, but is it that you don't make time for your business? Is it that you struggle with boundaries? Is it that you struggle with perfectionism? Like, here is the chance to really identify what is the change you want to make. Because again, people focus on these big goals. They focus on these shiny objects. I want to make this money. I want to do this. No, what are the changes that need to happen to make the improvements that you want? Those changes within yourself, those changes within your life, because that is the key to change. Is we have to know what needs to change, not just what we want to do, because that's the gap that people have when they set goals and they want to take action and they want to overcome fear, is they get so focused on these big goals that they think is going to bring them worth or success, but they don't look in the day-to-day of their life of what changes need to be made. Right? When I was new in my business, and it's funny that my mom is on this call, she would ask me all the time, like, oh, you're out with your friends, you're out doing X, Y, and Z, but like, how often are you working? And I was like, what do you mean? It's just, it's hard. And like, I got so defensive because the changes I needed to make was to respect myself and my business, to actually get in there and work and stop letting fear take over. And so when you're answering these questions, I want you to do it with giving yourself so much compassion. But when you answer all of this, what I want you to do with these answers is, I want you, if you're in Sarah's unit, I don't know about my mom's, but I will speak for Sarah on this. I want you to schedule a coaching call with Sarah, and I want you to bring her these answers. Because this is the roadmap to building objectivity in your business so that you can take action. I do this reflection every single day, every single week. Now, I'm not going to put that on you to do, but at the end of every day, I ask myself, what went well? What am I proud of? What were my challenges? What was hard? What am I looking to improve on? How am I getting in my own way? Like, I do this every day because then I can end my day being so objective with what's going on. I've celebrated myself. I've praised myself. I'm getting so clear on the changes I need to make to actually move forward in the day-to-day. Okay. And so I want you to really focus on this. The key to success in business is not in the big action. It's not in the big goals. It's in the day-to-day reflections of looking at yourself and your business in a balanced way, because that is going to build confidence. That is going to build self-love. That is going to give you the answers. How many of you, and this could be in life, right? Like, things are going really well, and then this stress happens, you're overwhelmed, you check out, and it's so hard to get back on, right? The biggest problem I see in entrepreneurs is they're on that roller coaster. They have some good parties, they have some good one-on-ones, and then it's nothing, it's silent. And then they get down on themselves, and then they start judging themselves, and it's so hard to get back up. What this reflection does is it sets you up for consistent growth, that even if you have a rough couple of days, it's so easy to bounce back. That is such an important strength of a successful entrepreneur, is the ability to bounce back, resilience. I have hard days. I have days where I cry in my shower. I have days where I question if I know what the heck I'm doing, because I'm human and life can be hard. But it doesn't last more than a day or two, because I can take this and I can look at, what are my strengths? What are my gifts? What am I doing? And I can reset any hard day, any hard moment to bring back what I need to do. Okay. So that's key one. I don't think anyone has any questions, I think, from the chat. Okay. So Sarah wrote that up. Key two is overcoming self-sabotage. I will ask entrepreneurs what they think is getting in their way of their success. And it's so easy for us to list everything outside of ourselves. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I'm a mom. I have this. I have that. We are constantly looking outside of ourselves for the reason that our businesses are not where they want them to be. I've done it. I've been there. I catch myself doing it. My schedule is so busy. I can't commit to this. I can't. And it's like, that is self-sabotage, right? And so what I want you to recognize, and what I'm going to teach you in this key, is everything that you want to achieve in your business is within you. It does not matter the circumstances in your life. It does not matter your family. It does not matter what is going on in your schedule. The narrative, the story of the reason why you are not achieving the things you want in your business is because it is within you. It is a narrative of worthiness and self-sabotage that is getting in your way. And I want you to think about your reaction when I just said that. Because I can teach you skills, I can teach you insight, but you have to be aware emotionally of how you feel about the things I'm saying. Because when I've had conversations like this, and especially with my mom, who is super successful, I got really defensive, and I tried to explain to her why I couldn't work my business. Because it was a lot easier to blame the things in my external life than to look inward and own, right? Because being vulnerable is so hard for me to say, I am so scared of failing. I am so scared. I am so scared that this thing I've wanted my whole life, what if I fail at that? Like, I could cry now thinking, it is so scary. And so it was not until I owned that then I could break through it. And so it is so strong of someone to be vulnerable. But I want you to understand this formula, and I've said it to a couple of you before on trainings. Your thoughts trigger your feelings dictate your behavior, and your behavior gives you results. So a lot of times people will focus on the behavior and the results part of their business, okay? They don't focus on their thoughts and feelings, right? Your thoughts and feelings are perceptions, they're not facts, but your thoughts and feelings create your reality. And so people tell themselves the story of why they can't take action, why they can't achieve certain things. And so I want you for a second, how do we overcome that, right? Because this narrative is strong. This narrative has been strong for women for a very long time, right? I want you to think about, what are the personality traits within yourself that you value or you like, or you've heard people compliment you. I want you to put it in the chat. What are the personality traits that you like about yourself, or that maybe people in your life value, right? Brag on yourself. Tell me the amazing, beautiful qualities about yourself in the chat. I only need a couple. I don't know if Sarah's typing away. But if you don't want to, that's okay. I'm never going to make you do something you don't want to do. Okay, loyalty, perseverance, honesty, hard work, tenacity, confident, loyal, determined, loving. Okay. Yeah, keep bragging on yourself. Competitive, organized, good at leading others, easy to talk to, dependable. Right. Wow. Now I want you to take a second, and I want you. Beautiful. Oh, sorry. I think there was someone unmuted. Giving person, I do for others, honest, flexible, funny. And I want you to take a second. It's kind. It's so amazing to look at the strengths within yourself and the personality qualities. However, a lot of those qualities, and this is me, you know what I value most about myself? I'm empathetic. I care for others. I want to help people. I like to think I'm like a present family member. I'm responsible, loving, caregiving, leader, fun, integrity, right? There's all these qualities. But what happens is, especially as women who were caretakers, we want to help, people person, love to bless others. When we have these qualities within ourselves without balance or clarity of what they mean, what that does is it leaves us vulnerable to people pleasing and anxiety, right? I just listed some of my things. I'm empathetic, I'm caring, I love the people in my life hard, I want to help people. But a lot of times the things we love about ourselves most, or we value about ourselves most, end up being our culprit to burnout. Because how many times do you struggle with setting a boundary? Because you're like, well, I'm a caring person, I'm a good mom, I'm loyal, I'm responsible, I'm empathetic. Like, we take on this responsibility that if we want to live in these strengths and we want to be the things that we value and others value about us, that means putting others above ourselves. That means think about how much you do on a daily, weekly basis that revolves around pouring into somebody else. It could be your own kids, your spouse, your friends, work, whatever, right? And so a lot of times where people love to self-sabotage is in these personality traits, because they'll say to me, well, I'm such a caring person, so if my mom calls me and I was supposed to do a Mary Kay call, I'm going to call my mom back, right? We feel this guilt and shame in these identities. Well, if I'm an empathetic, caring person, then I need to say yes to spending time with my family and say no to my business, right? A lot of people look at it as either or, right? Well, if I'm a good mom, I can't miss this activity for my child to do a party, because that would make me a bad mom. That would make me selfish and would make me, that I don't care, right? And so we wrestle with these strengths. And so what I really want to teach you today is, how do you really overcome self-sabotage? And I want to show you very quickly where this gets to be a very, I don't want to say scared. That's not the word. Oh, hey, Sarah, could you just disable or make me the co-host so I could share? Sorry, I forgot to ask that. I want you to understand why this is like anxiety's like favorite thing, and why this literally is the key to self-sabotage, and why it's so hard for us. Because a lot of what I'll do with clients in the beginning is they're like, let's make a schedule. Let's figure out when I'm going to make my calls. And there's a reason that a majority of that is never going to stick. Because to set boundaries and set schedules and say yes to us and our business, it is to understand the emotions we have to change. So I want you to just understand this really quickly. I'm just going to share stuff. I'm a visual learner. I think it's helpful to share. Okay. So this is the cycle of anxiety. This is how anxiety works in our brains. This is how, again, I said anxiety tries to keep us safe. So anxiety is triggered. So think about it. If you're outside your comfort zone and you're working your business, fear, anxiety, we're incredibly vulnerable to that. And so what I want you to understand logically, so you can get how this works, is our brains, again, they want to keep us safe. They don't want us to be in danger, even though there's nothing dangerous about making a phone call to a to a facial. But what our brain wants us to do is create a safety-seeking behavior. So that's avoidance, distraction, seeking reassurance, like always asking, are we doing the right thing? And so how this is massive self-sabotage is when people are saying yes to everybody in their life, and they're hiding behind those gifts and strengths they think of how they need to show up with these high expectations, it really is anxiety sabotaging you. It wants you to avoid feeling uncomfortable. It wants you to distract from your business because it can be scary to get out of our comfort zones. But the only thing that really gets in our way is when we run from it instead of understanding it. Right? When I said I'm an anxiety expert, I talk about anxiety all day long. And again, I also was victim of this because it's scary. It's scary to be vulnerable. It's scary to work your business. And so we avoid and distract, we make excuses. But what I want you to understand is I want you to call yourself on it in a loving way, like, oh, I'm saying yes to doing all these social things because I'm avoiding working because I'm scared. Okay. So what happens? We feel short-term relief. How many of you, and I laugh because I can vividly remember doing this. I would do consultation calls for clients. I would literally have people that are like, I would like to work with you. And I would call them. And if they messed the time up or they ended up not picking up, I'd be like, oh, phew. I am so happy that this potential business venture didn't work because I'm so scared, right? That's how it shows up. And so again, a lot of people, when they feel anxious, they're like, isn't that so stupid, Sam? Isn't that so silly? Please stop invalidating your feelings. It is not silly. This is how anxiety works, and it's going to find all kinds of ways. Funny story, a couple weeks ago, I have this big thing I'm working on with, doesn't matter the details, but I'm kind of scared, right? I haven't really been this fearful of growth in a while. And then I found myself organizing my pantry. I've never organized my pantry, I think, since I moved into my home, but now it just needs to be done, right? And I started laughing. I was talking to myself, Sam, you're doing this creative avoidance thing. You're organizing a pantry instead of sending the email to schedule a meeting. You want to do and you need to do because it's something so important to you, but you're scared, right? So I could either make a decision to own that avoidance and let myself take some avoidance, or I could recognize it and do something about it, okay? So all that does is create long-term anxiety, which is why you'll be on the roller coaster of business. You'll be on the roller coaster of excitement because this cycle is happening every single day. And it's masked as, well, I'm a good mom and I'm a good friend and I have to put others before myself. And it's selfish to prioritize my business. No, the cycle of anxiety is what is creating that narrative. And so I just wanted to kind of show you what that actually is happening. So when we have awareness, we can make change. So I want you to really recognize that. When you even say to yourself, oh, I'm avoiding that because I'm scared, your anxiety goes down by 50%, half. Because you're not in the fight and flight and the fear, you're in the honest solution. I'm doing this because I'm scared. I'm not doing this because I'm too busy. I'm not doing this because my kids need me so much. No, I'm doing this because I'm scared and I'm anxious. And so what can I do about that? Okay. And so what you do is, before you say yes to anything, I want you to play the tape out. That's the skill. Play the tape out. What does that mean? You ask yourself, if I say yes to this, how am I going to feel? And how is it going to impact the goals that I have? Because we say yes out of guilt. We say yes out of feeling like we need to be the caring, the empathetic, we have all these stories of why we have to please and pour elsewhere. And so when you play the tape out, you can say, because how many times have you been the friend or the daughter or the wife or the mom that gives and gives and gives, and you don't ask of anything? And then when you do, or you feel like you're burnt out on pouring, you get resentful or you get angry. Don't people realize, I had that narrative all the time. Don't people realize I'm trying to run a business? Why does everybody ask me for all the things? Because I say yes all the time. Because I have no boundaries. So then I would get resentful and I would get frustrated and I would feel like no one's listening to me. And so I want you to understand that boundaries equal freedom. And I know I've said that before in a training, but boundaries equal freedom. We have this negative connotation to boundaries. Boundaries are harsh and they're direct and they're mean. I want you to think about that. What is your belief about boundaries? People think boundaries are meant to keep people away or that it's meant to be selfish. No. Boundaries give you freedom, and boundaries give you the ability to be present. Another opposite of anxiety is to be present. Because people will half work their business because they're doing stuff with their family. And when they're with their family, they're thinking about their business and all the things they need to do. You're not present. You're not fully there. You're not just in the joy of that moment. And so lack of boundaries gets in your way to be fully happy. It gets in the way of you to be fully present. And so I want you to think about where you struggle with boundaries, why they're hard, what story you have, and I want you to practice another skill is I want you to practice the and, not or. How many of you, if I want to be a good mom, I can't be a good mom and prioritize myself, right? We have these beliefs. No. You can be a good mom, good friend, enter whatever your life is, and prioritize yourself first. When I just said that, prioritize yourself first above your spouses, above your children, above anybody else, yourself first. Do you believe that to be true? Because I never believed that. If I wanted to be a good daughter, I had to prioritize my family first. Because we just think in these rigid ways. It's either this or it's that. You can be a helpful friend and say no when people ask you to do stuff, right? So I want you to start practicing the and, because we wrestle with this, our integrity of who we are. Well, if I'm caring and kind and nice, how can I say yes to my business above the people in my life? But how much are you saying no to yourself and disrespecting your goals and dreams, and also getting in the way of your gifts to help others? And so I want you to just really think about this, okay? The other way that we overcome self-sabotage, and this skill is meant to help you increase your emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand your feelings, to process your feelings and let them go. Emotional intelligence is the number one factor if someone will be successful in business. We think it's if we're this type of person, or we compare ourselves. No, it's your ability to handle your emotions and understand them. And so the other thing I want to give you in terms of overcoming self-sabotage, because how many times do you have all kinds of emotions and you like push them down, right? Like, oh, I'm not important, and when we talk about setting boundaries, or we talk about taking action in our business, if you do not give yourself space on a regular basis to process your feelings with self-compassion and no judgment, you are going to constantly be anxious and stressed out, right? Emotions only last 90 seconds. It's the story we attach to them that makes them last longer. So how many times do you minimize your feelings? Do you judge your feelings? Do you say they're stupid? Do you say I shouldn't feel this way? Do you say I should just get over it, right? Like, there's constant this narrative of shame and judgment around how we feel. But what I just taught you is your emotions are the foundation of everything that you do. So if you are repressing emotions, you are minimizing your emotions, you are judging your emotions, it will be incredibly difficult for you to take action, consistent action in your business. It will be nearly impossible for you to have the results that you want. So what I want to show you is how do you take back that, hold on, I'm just going to show the wrong thing. Tech's not my thing. That is one of my challenges, technology. I will own that. It's very difficult for me. Okay, so let me share this. Okay, so what I will give you, you'll get this later, so don't worry about like memorizing or taking a picture. But majority of people cannot identify their emotions clearly in the moment. And so what our brain loves solutions, our brain loves certainty, it loves to know what's going on. And so when you do not take time to accurately understand how you're really feeling, you will be struggling with anxiety and fear on a regular basis, right? Most people can only identify emotions here. I feel angry, I feel fear, I feel sad, I feel joy, I feel love. But there's and this is like not even all of them, there's like hundreds and hundreds of emotions, but this is really what's going on, right? When you feel anxious or scared, you feel inadequate, you feel inferior, right? Instead of being like, why do I feel anxious? It's so stupid. Absolutely not. Our emotions are signals to what's going on. Our emotions tell us a story. And so when you can accurately identify your emotion in the moment, again, your emotion will go down by half. And so emotions are uncomfortable, right? Like when we feel inadequate, or we feel agitated, or we feel jealous or resentful, it feels uncomfortable. But if you can sit in your emotion for 90 seconds and you can get really clear on what's going on and why that's going on, your brain will literally start to decompress, and it will give you the ability to let that go. The other thing I want to show you, I don't think I can swap screens, so this is what's really going on underneath fear and anxiety. I'm going to show you this on a deeper level so you can see it. When I ask clients, what scares you or what makes you fearful, or like, why do you feel like you're not taking the action you want? What is really happening is a lot of pain is happening when we feel anxious and fearful, right? So instead of saying, oh my gosh, I was, on this party and I feel like I didn't do a good job, right? Or you self-blame, or you do all these things. If you can say, I felt judged, or I felt a lack of attention, or I feel uncared for, or I feel forgotten, like really think about when you're really struggling with stress and overwhelm and really putting everybody first and not taking the action you want. There's so much that's actually happening, right? Like, I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel important enough. And again, no, I'm not invalidating when I say this, but it's not our emotions, our perceptions. So just because you feel this, I'm not saying that it's not true. Like, maybe you felt disconnected or you didn't feel important. It doesn't mean maybe that person doesn't love you or doesn't feel you're important, but there's some emotion going on. And so I'm going to give you both of these, but I want you to use that emotion wheel, because when I do that with clients and we kind of break down and I help them pinpoint the real emotion, right? Like when I think about those conversations with my mom, and I'm going to put my mom on the spot, when I would get defensive, the way that I saw it then, because I was so anxious and overwhelmed and not dealing with anything emotionally, I was like, she's just being hard on me and I'm not good enough. And it was like, no, I felt inadequate. I felt insecure. I felt unworthy of the work. Like, there was all these really things, so many other things were happening under the surface that I would not go to. I pushed it down. I ignored it. I avoided it. And it came out in not taking action. It came out in anger. It came out in wanting to give up on my dreams. And so I share that for you because I want you on a regular basis. If you could take 10, 15 minutes a day and go through these things and process your feelings and identify them, the amount of emotional freedom you will feel, the amount, like, think about how many of you at night, or I don't know if this is true, but your mind races and you're worrying and there's so much you need to do and there's so much expectation and stress. It's because you're carrying all of these emotions, and the more that you carry and push down and minimize and judge, it will be impossible to achieve the goals that you want. Or you'll feel like I'm burning myself out to get there. And so it is so very important that you start to look at your feelings with love and compassion and say, yeah, I didn't feel important. Yeah, I'm feeling insecure. That's what's going on. That's why I'm frustrated. Or that's why it's hard to be coached. When I first started my business, people were like, read this book. I'm like, I'm good. I know what I'm doing. No. I didn't know what I was doing, and that's okay. But I was so feeling insecure and inadequate that I could not take coaching. I could not be open to receive help or support. So when you start to feel defensive or you start to feel angry, more is going on. And so it is such a powerful skill to get in control of those emotions, to regulate them, to use them in your favor, and to give yourself compassion about those. Okay? And so that's some of the emotional things you can do to overcome self-sabotage. Last key, which is one of my favorite keys to go over, because it is super tangible. You're gonna walk away with a plan. Like I mentioned, a lot of times we set goals out of lack, out of not feeling worthy, out of all these emotional stories in our mind, right? It gets complicated. But a lot of people set goals out of excitement and of wanting to feel like this is the goal that's going to give me worthiness or make people feel like, yes, she's finally good enough. The problem with that, and again, a couple of you that have been on trainings before, I'm going to teach you how do you set goals. So key 3 is setting goals to create action, not fear. Okay, so setting goals to create action, not fear. I want to give you the formula, and I'm going to show you a thing. It's going to be a super clear formula. How do I actually set the goals that I can take action with instead of overwhelming myself with discomfort and anxiety, right? And so what I want to teach you is how do you even figure out where to pinpoint that goal? And so this is called setting goals in your growth zone, a growth zone goal. Most of you probably have heard of it if you heard me speak, but it is so important, especially in this new year. So what I want you to do is, on a piece of paper, you write down this formula. I want you to take the last 6 months, and if you haven't been in Mary Kay that long, however long you've been in it, take the last 6 months, and I want you to take an average of tracking numbers that you want to look at or you really want to set growth in, right? Maybe it's income. Usually with Mary Kay clients, it's income, sales, faces, and recruits. Well, I'll just throw it out there, but it can be whatever you really want to set a goal around and track. Some people just like to look at income, or income and sales is super important to them right now. So really just look at some of the numbers in your business that you're really wanting to advance in. You're really wanting to grow this year. So look at the past 6 months and take the average. That is your comfort zone. Okay. And I'm going to show you a visual so you can see it. So that's how we know our comfort zone. It's something we just do, pretty consistent, just kind of happens at this point. Because again, people think success is in the big action. It's in the big stride. People are setting goals in their fear zone. Right? So how we're able to take action and grow is that we're just scared enough, right? It's just creating fear enough that it's a growth. We're going to have to stretch a little bit. We're going to learn a little bit, but it's not so far out of our comfort zone that we don't have a foundation, right? Because to really take action in your business now, it is about creating consistent skills and consistent habits and a strong foundation. Because again, when I work with clients and we set these goals, majority of the responses, I can do more than that, but I want more than that. Yeah, but successful businesses are a journey. Instead of only wanting to feel worthiness at the end, like why not get excited for every step? Because there is nothing worse than when an entrepreneur hits a big goal and then they fall off, or they reach it and they're so overwhelmed with how they're going to sustain it because they didn't build that foundation. How amazing would it be, right? 6 figures is a pretty standard, I think, big goal. That was my big thing when I began. I want to make 6 figures. I want to make 6 figures. And I would minimize making $500, or I would minimize making $2,000. What? That was a lot better than being negative thousands of dollars. Like I didn't do that work early on to own it. Now, any small step I make is so important. So what you do is you got your comfort zone. You multiply that by 25%. Okay, so you take those numbers, and again, I'll show you a visual, by 25%. That is the goal that you want to focus on right now. And again, I want you to pay attention because I'm telling you this, right, logically, but when you start to write this down, your first response will probably be, well, I can do more than that. I want to do more than that. I want to make more impact than that. You're going to judge that number. And I want you to be conscious that's coming from lack and insecurity, and that's self-sabotage, and that's fear, and that's anxiety. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. Let me pull it up real quick. Okay, so I'm not good at math, so I just want to show this to you. Okay, so I just did it really clearly, and I'll give this to you, but I just did a random example of like, this is the growth zone example. So, right, take your averages. If this was like, you're just looking at income, take your last 6 months, look at the income. And this is what I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs. It kind of can be all over the place. Or sometimes it's a slower month. And again, their reason is, oh, life was happening. And that may be true. And I want to validate that, but also because the consistency is missing, right? The focus that's going to help you take action is missing. So, right, if your average is $815 a month, I want you to get super excited about making $1,000 consistent. And a lot of people will be like, oh, that's only $200 more. What's the big deal? But yeah, but once you hit $1,000 for 3 months straight, this is all gone. It's not 400, then 500, then 30. It's like, how amazing would it be to just like straight up make $1,000 and know, because you're consistently working, you're doing the skills we're talking about, that you're hitting that. And then after 3 months, it's becoming just something that happens, right? And so then you get to bump $1,000 by 25%. And it's chunk by chunk and step by step and foundation by foundation. Because when I look at my income now, I don't ever look at it and say, uh-oh, what if I lose that? Uh-oh, what if I take a vacation and I don't want to work for 2 weeks? No, I've built a business that's sustainable, that the next jump I want, it's just going to happen because the growth is there. And I can identify like, hey, where are my challenges right now? Like I'm kind of stalled at this income, or I'm stalled at this amount of clients I want to help. Like what's going on? There's no judgment. I don't fall off. I don't run away from my business. Like it's coming from just this super compassionate, logical place. And so I want you to get excited about the 25%. okay? Instead of judging it, instead of feeling like, no, I want to, because you will double, you will make six figures. The keys that I talked about tonight, if you do these things and you practice these things each day, each week, it will literally be the roadmap to making six figures, or having a unit size, or becoming it, like whatever the goal is that you really want in the end to make the impact or have freedom. Like, I want you to have those big goals. Like, I have a huge goal on my whiteboard right here. It is huge. I'm nowhere near that right now. But I know where my 25% is. And when I can look back, I can see my 25% and how easy it got, and how much more I stayed consistent when I stopped judging the outcome of the goal on my worth. Okay. And so I will make sure you have all of these things, right? The goal is to create a mindset that's objective and balanced and focused and calm and resilient, right? It is to have the skills to break through anxiety. It is having the skills to break through when you feel like you're scared or you're feeling insecure, because we all feel that way. That still pops up for me to this day, but I know what to do on a daily basis so that I can just let it go. Okay. And so what I'm going to offer, let me just put this in the chat real quick. This week and next, I know you guys have seminar, and I want to make sure that you guys get to have fun with that. I said a couple days in the next 2 days, and the next week a couple times. I only have 5 to give, but I am offering 5 free breakthrough sessions. If you found this helpful, or you feel like I have a big goal, I want to get a plan to implement this, and working with Sarah, we get to offer these, free coaching 30 minutes. She likes to gift them to people. And so I wanted to just add to that gift, because I know you guys have big unit goals. I know you're all just have so many gifts and talents. And I want to see you take that action and keep doing it. No more avoiding, no more getting in your own way. Like, let's really make the change, that's going to sustain, so you can live in that, that freedom and that happiness. So I appreciate your time. Yeah. And I'm just so grateful to get to be here.